Okay, so we're gonna get started, guys. Thank you all so much for coming to the session. I hope you've had a wonderful time at the summit. And I would like to give a warm welcome to session 17, Leadership and Online Model UN. And this session is presented by two very special people at MUN Impact, my co-secretary general, Jaime Nunnikhoven, and one of our director generals for Oman, Marwan Lamki. So I will hand it over to them to take the floor. Thanks, guys.
So welcome to our workshop today. We hope you're all happy and that you've enjoyed the summit so far. My name is Marwan Lamki, and as our colleague Zoe said, I'm a Director General at Online My United Nations. I've done MUN since 2015, and I pass on the mic to Jaime.
Hi, so my name is Jaime Nunnikhoven. As Zoe has already stated, I am the co-section for we offer doing for also been doing non-itself for 4 years on international conference.
So firstly, I'll start by walking you through the structure of our workshop today. So we'll talk about various things to do with MUN and leading, whether it being a club or an organization such as Oman or MUN Impact online. First of all, we'll focus on organizational culture. So what type of culture you would like to focus on within your team, the different and various leadership styles that can happen within your team, the recruitment plan, so how to recruit people and what to look for, your operations strategy, which would be the various debate teams and events that would take place. And then we'll talk about some of our programs within MUN Impact, which are MUN Impact Global and Online My United Nations. And last but not least, we'll talk about how to establish your own MUN club, be it online or a physical MUN club.
So, I hope you can all hear me well. Having some connection issues regarding our organizational culture. First of all, the most important thing is being upfront with your people.
I'm sorry, Jaime. I think there's some problems with your audio.
Yeah, try to fix that. Okay.
You're currently muted, so.
I don't know if you can hear me right now. No. How about now?
It's all good now. It's all good.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know how much you did hear, but basically, first of all, it's very important to be upfront with the people you're working with. They should really know what they should be doing, and also how they should be doing it in regards to are they doing it correctly? Is there something they should be working on? So being upfront is really important because you really want people to do their job correctly, or at least what they want to do correctly. If not, it's just going to be it's not going to be a pleasant experience for either the boss in this case or the person working for the organization. One of the things that plays key into this is getting to know them. If you want to work with someone on a professional level, you should really also get to know them on a personal level. See what they're like, what they work like, what the way they act in the world, and hence how they relate to other people and talk to others. Because once you really get to know them personally, it's when you can actually take advantage of that and work the best possible way with them and with whatever job you're working towards. To do this, you need to create a learning environment. What you want to do with this is you need to always play the fool. You always want to be constantly learning. And the best way to do this is to have people's mistakes shown directly as soon as possible. That way they can fix them as soon as possible. If they can do that, their reaction won't be as bad as if they learn that way further in the future. Hence, learning from your mistakes should be a very quick and easy thing to see. It shouldn't take a lot of time. There shouldn't be a lot of red tape and so on. And while doing this, you also have to keep in mind you need to be respectful. If there's no respect, then you're not going to get anywhere. It's going to be always an argument between the two of you. You're not going to get anywhere. There's no point in trying to learn if you're not respectful, because that's just not going to happen. So you want to use the right language. You don't want to attack the person. You want to know them. And that's why you need to know them personally. And one of the problems, especially in organizations as big as Ambient Impact, is all the different backgrounds. Something that works for others doesn't work in another region. For example, the Europe area is very individualistic, while Asia focuses more on the community aspect. That's why, for example, now with COVID, this has kind of changed, right? In Asia, you see people wearing masks when they're sick, even if it's just the flu, while in Europe, that doesn't really happen. And only with coronavirus right now, that is actually starting to happen. So there's some things that some cultures don't take slightly than others. And that's why it's also very important to know who you're working with and getting to know them on a personal level. So work hard, play hard. Marwan, take it from here.
Okay, so now I'm going to focus more on the leadership style that you'd like to have in your team or your entire organization as a whole. Be it whether you're a leader of a team or a member of a team, it is important to make sure that you have the right leadership style to foster not just a caring environment with your colleagues, but an environment where everyone feels that their ideas are worthwhile and that they can contribute their abilities and skills and talents to a team working towards a vision. So how do we achieve the aforementioned topics that I talked about? First of all, let's think about transformational leadership. So what is transformational leadership? Transformational leadership is a leadership style whereby you lead a team with a vision. So you set out a shared vision with your team members and you work towards achieving that vision. So how do you come up with a vision, first of all? The thing that you have to do with your team is you should sit down, be it in person if you're all in the same country, obviously with physical distancing right now, or over a Zoom call like this. And what's important is to understand that this vision is something that should be created by your entire team, not just a leader, because that type of leadership style, such as autocratic leadership, where you tell someone to do something and you expect them to do it and then they do it, is not the type of leadership style that should happen within MUN organizations, in my opinion, because everyone's opinion is valuable and everyone's opinion should be heard. So I'm going to ask you a question. What is your vision? Just take 10 seconds to think about that. If you're starting an MUN organization or a club, what would be your vision? Okay, hopefully you're able to think of something. So let's take that vision that you have in your mind. You have to then understand what exactly is that vision. You have to spell it out for yourself. For example, if I was leading an MUN organization, my vision would be able to give a lot of youth around the world accessible MUN. And that, for example, would be my vision. Now, what's the next thing to do after realizing what your vision is? The next thing you want to do is set out a few goals in order to achieve those visions. So now I'm going to give you 10 more seconds to ask yourself, what are those goals that you'd like to achieve within your vision? Okay, so for example, my goals would be, for example, to provide various different research guides to various different delegates, to provide a lot of guidance on how to write opening speeches, on how to write resolutions, on how to write position paragraphs. Those would be my specific goals because my vision was more focused on MUN and making it available to other people, right? So I'm going to focus on the quality of my content. So that's just a bit more specific. But going a bit more general, what you want to do is make sure that you create an action plan that you can follow. So what exactly would you have within your action plan? Something that's a bit tedious that some of us don't like is deadlines. That's something very important. You need to set out a number of deadlines for every goal that you want to achieve. You want to set it out well in advance so that you and your team know what you're working towards and how long you have to achieve a certain thing. And make sure that within that action plan, everyone's roles are decided. So for example, let's say by August, we want to have 10 debates. So then we're going to put who's responsible for all these debates. We're going to put everyone's role on it, and then we're going to specify how we're going to reach that role. So that's what I mean by an action plan. Now, moving on to the next point, you want to be leading by example, and you want to be sure to be a role model. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is, as a leader, you want others to look up to you, to be inspired by you, and to be motivated by you. Because obviously leading an organization or an MUN club is not an easy job. It is not every day that it's going to be perfect. It's not going to be beds of roses every day, right? There's going to be trials, tribulations, and some challenges to starting up and to making sure that you continue your MUN club. So the first thing you want to do is you want to coach and you want to mentor your teammates. You want to be a mentor to them. You want to teach them. You want to make sure that if anyone makes a mistake, that they can learn from it, that not everything that happens is a bad thing. And that's the learning process. The next thing that you want to focus on is that you would like to spend time with your teammates. You want to give them time to get to know them on a personal level, as Jaime said, because obviously working in MUN, you want to learn from a lot of different people from around the world. And the next point would be something I'd like to call friendly professionalism. So how exactly do two almost contradicting ideas come together? First of all, being friendly is very important because you have to understand that you're working with a lot of people who are most likely to be the same age as you. So you want to be relatable to them. Yet you also want to have a sense of professionalism within your team because you're not just a group of friends here to achieve a shared vision. You're more of a group of friends who have come together to act as leaders to facilitate MUN. And last but not least, something that I believe in, which is my motto in life, is be yourself. Make sure that you're always true to yourself, true to the vision that you started with, and just make sure that everyone's having an opportunity to be themselves as a leader.
So having said this, we're going to move on how you actually get people involved. And saying this is quite a very difficult thing to say, but honestly, it's
Jaime,
very
it's the same problem again.
How about now?
All good.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. So basically, this is when people, for example, like here in this talk, in this for us.
Sorry, Jaime. I'm sorry. It's doing the same thing again.
If my connection keeps being like this, I'll ask Marwan to take over. I'm sorry, I don't know what's up with my Wi-Fi right now.
Okay, it's good now. It's good now. You can continue.
Amina, please let me know so then Marwan can take over for a bit until my Wi-Fi calms down.
All right.
So, like I was saying, Mustafa, who is right now here in this talk, which I very much appreciate, he takes social media basically for everything. He also which is
okay, it's messing up.
Marwan, take it. Marwan,
okay.
take it.
I'll take over and then let Jaime take over from there. So first of all, recruitment plans. So why is having a recruitment plan very important? It's important because you want to know the type of people you want to recruit onto your team. Not only are you looking for a certain group of people that you want to attract, but there's also another important part, which is retaining the people on your team. So as Jaime set out before, how do you reach those people? First of all, Instagram. A lot of people use Instagram. You want to find the right social media to get to the people that you know. So let's say, for example, we're starting an MUN club and our niche audience would be young adults or teenagers, being middle schoolers, high schoolers, or university students trying to look for a way to facilitate MUN during the pandemic online due to canceled conferences. So that's what we're trying to look for. We're looking for people who are going through the same thing that we're going through and who would like to work together to achieve something. So then you go looking on various social media platforms, for example, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, or any other platform. The next thing is obviously word of mouth. A lot of people talk about a lot of things. So for example, you might have a conversation with your friends and just tell them about, for example, this workshop that you attended today, or the summit that you've attended in the past 3 days. And that would lead to asking various questions. So what is MUN Impact, for example? What is the Global Summit? And from that conversation, you might realize that there's various different applications open within our programs or various different organizations. And that is where word of mouth comes in, is by talking to people and finding out what they want to do. Another thing is, it's a classic, I know, some people just don't read their emails, but emails are the way to go. Whether it's someone's university email or the personal email, emailing people within your mailing list is very important. So now I'm going to go back to the idea of attracting and retaining. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you attract the right group of people. So how would you do this? I personally would go about by creating something called a person specification. So I'm going to specify the different attributes and traits that I'd like to see within a person that I would like to recruit. So what would that be? Let's say I would like them to be an effective communicator. I'd like them to be kind, respectful, and caring towards others. I'd like them to be hardworking, committed, and dedicated towards what they do. I'd like them to have time management skills. I'd like them to be polite, and I'd like them to be an experienced MUNer, or perhaps an unexperienced MUNer. But what's important is for them to be able to trust each other, to be loyal to one another, and to be able to work together to achieve a shared vision. That would be what I would like to have within my person specification. So once you're done identifying what type of person you're looking for, you're then going to create job advertisements. You're going to advertise the type of people you're looking for online, be it having a website or through your social medias or emailing, or again, by talking to people through word of mouth. So once you're done advertising, you're going to continuously keep on reposting those advertisements online. So if you're on Facebook, you would go onto Facebook, you'd go onto your page and you'd schedule posts. You'd select the days, you'd select the times, and keep on rescheduling them until you've filled your teams. Whether you're recruiting on a rolling basis or you have a fixed date, you must make sure that you're continuously advertising, because a mistake that you don't want to be making, and I emphasize the mistake that you do not want to be making, is choosing people because you need people at that time. What you need to make sure of is that you're recruiting the right people for the right job. You don't just want to recruit people to fill a job. That's not what you want to do. That's where mistakes start to happen. You might start recruiting the wrong people. So once you're done advertising the jobs, the next step is to read applications. So there's various different ways that you could do that. You could write a Google Forms and send it out. You could write a type form and send it out. You could perhaps take physical paper. Any way that a person could send you their application, be it a CV or an application, you have to read through it. You have to deliberate. You have to set up what type of questions you're looking for. So let's say I'm writing an application for an organization that's called XMUN, okay? So I'm gonna start asking the person, who are you as a leader and who are you as a person? Now, why would I ask something like that? I'd wanna know who they are as a person, because let's say, for example, Jaime is writing me an application trying to join XMUN right now. I'm going to be like, okay, who's this Jaime guy? I don't know who Jaime is. I just see his achievements and what he's done. I wanna know who he is as a person, which goes back to the fact that Jaime has mentioned before. You want to get to know your team on a personal level, because once you get to know people on a personal level, you get to work with them better. Now back to Jaime trying to join XMUN. We're then going to learn more about Jaime as a leader. So he's going to tell us what type of leader he is. And let's say, for example, he's a transformational leader, someone with a vision. So he's then going to lay out his vision in his application, tell me what he's looking for. Once I'm done getting to know Jaime as a person, as a leader, I'm then going to want to know what his hobbies, his talents are, what he likes to do in his free time, just so that I understand, for example, if he's working within XMUN, what are his other responsibilities? Does he have the time to take on those responsibilities? Is there something that's going on in his life that's stopping him from doing those things? So that's why it's very important to know your team on a personal level, because once you know your team on a personal level, you can then get to work more efficiently. Now back to the XMUN. After that, you're probably going to want to ask other types of questions. For example, what's your MUN experience? So they're going to lay out the type of awards they've won, be it best delegate, best negotiator, any honorable mentions or testimonials, because you want to know how experienced they are. Because if you're running an MUN organization, you're either going to want someone who's completely, really highly experienced, so that they could be your debate officers, your mentor officers, your enrichment officers, or you're going to want someone who has maybe potentially never done MUN because they're working on a different aspect in your organization that is not MUN oriented, such as marketing or IT. And then after that section of the application, you're probably going to want to ask what their vision is for your organization. Like, what is the motivations for joining XMUN? Is it because you want to do MUN online because of the pandemic? Is it because MUN is your passion? Is it because you want to add it to your application? Or is it because you're bored and you want to do something during the summer holidays? Whatever the reason is, it's important to understand their motivations because that way you'll be able to understand them better. Now I'm going to pass it back to Jaime.
So I'm not sure if my internet's back or not. Can someone confirm? Okay, so some of the things relating to this, people really don't talk about word of mouth that much, and it's really underestimated the power of that. Like,
Jaime, we can't hear you again. It was on and then it was off. Just when you start speaking.
if this doesn't happen, I think I'm gonna have to leave it up to Marwan.
It's working now. It's working now. Go, go, go.
Working for now. Let's see if it keeps working. So word of mouth is very important. That's why you also want to establish your reputation as one that is the best possible with your own resources. You don't want people going around talking about how bad your new organization that you just set up is, how you did this exact thing that led to this event, which caused a lot of harm both to the organization and to that individual or group of people. And hence, bad reputation starts to spread about you. Word of mouth is one thing that is very, very strong, especially to get people involved, because the best way to convince people is through their own friends. The more they talk about it, the more interesting it is, the more of a good reputation it has, the more likely it is to succeed. And that's where your advertisement succeeds. So to do this, I think, well, really Mustafa could go more into the details of how he's done the Instagram, but you want to lay out certain positions and explain them on your social media. What's the position? What will they be doing? And so on. Because as Marwan said, you want to categorize people into what they want to do. And they might make a mistake, you know. There's some people that go into the form and do the wrong form for the wrong thing and then want to change. That's why also getting to know them is very useful. The more you know them, the more you know in which position they should be in. They might have started with this and they might have a really high focus in this, but in reality, because of the way they operate, they might be better at other tasks, even though they don't know that or they don't want to know that. So that's why it's very important to know your team and why the word of mouth is very important. So from now, I think we're gonna move on to the next slide. Hopefully, yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to focus more on the operations strategy. So what do I mean by operations? What do I mean by strategy? So by operations, I mean the daily basis, like the daily things that you do to run your organization. And by strategy, I mean, what are you doing strategically to achieve your goals? Like what decisions are you making? What are you trying to do? Because you simply can't just be like, oh, I'm going to start an MEN organization. I'm just going to, I'm going to wing it, just improvise, you know, that's not how it works. You have to plan it very carefully. So the first thing you want to do is the core of all MUN is your debate teams. So what type of debates do you want to have? So what type of teams or committees are you trying to organize? So let's say you have, in online My United Nations, we have 5 debate teams. We have the General Assembly debate team, the Human Rights Council debate team, the Security Council debate team, the Education for Justice debate team, and the International Affairs Dialogue debate team. So we have 5 debate teams, and we focus on 5 different aspects of debate. So how many debate teams do you want to have, and what do you want to focus on? Do you want to start a DISEC committee, an ECOSOC committee, the ICJ? What type of committee do you want to start? A historical security council, perhaps? Maybe you want to start a crisis or semi-crisis committee. Those are questions you want to ask yourself so that you understand, first of all, the various different peoples on your team and what type of MUN experience they have, which will help you decide what debate teams you want. Also, you're going to want to look at what type of delegates you're looking for, experienced or first-time delegates, so that they could train using specific debate teams. For example, in online My United Nations, we have a debate team called the International Affairs Dialogue. Now that's something that was designed by our executive leadership team, where first-time delegates or any delegate that gets to come in, they don't use any they can use personal pronouns. There's no country allocations, and it's just to talk about your personal political beliefs. And that's a way to get delegates who've never done MUN a way to feel that their way of thinking is correct, that their political beliefs are heard, that their solutions are right. And that's how you enlist confidence into people, by helping them. So that's just a way that we accommodate to our various different types of delegates who participate in our programs. Next thing you want to look at is operations teams. So what are the different operation teams? You could have marketing, you could have IT, you could have a brand cooperation communications team, such as the one we have in Oman, and you can have other various teams, such as moderating and workshops. or any other team such as press and publications, or a team that just focuses on education and continuous development, learning and development, and how to prosper your organization further. So if we're looking at marketing, we're going to be looking at a team that prepares promotions, videos, and stuff to post on your social media. They're going to schedule the posts on a daily basis, a weekly basis, bi-weekly, monthly. How do you want to go ahead for the rest of the year? So what type of promotions are you going to create? Are you going to use Canva? Are you going to purchase Canva Pro? Is your team trying to look for a color scheme? Are you trying to come up with a marketing strategy? Those are the type of questions you want to ask yourself when you're trying to run an operations team. Your IT team, obviously right now with the pandemic, physical conferences would be very challenging. So for the safety of your delegates and to follow guidelines and rules of various different countries and travel restrictions, you probably want to go online. So are you going to use Zoom? What type of platform are you going to use? Those are the type of questions you want to be asking. Whereas for your brand cooperation communications team, they're the type of people who would cooperate between your various programs. So for example, in Ambient Impact, we have 4 various different programs, being Ambient Impact Global, Online My United Nations, Junior Online My United Nations, and MUN at Home. So we find ways to cooperate with each other to work towards our shared vision of promoting the SDGs and facilitating MUN debates. So that's just for your operations teams. Now, obviously, calendar setting is also very important. You want to set out dates well in advance in time so that delegates could sign up for your debates. What media platforms are you going to use? Are you going to use Snapchat? Why Snapchat? Instagram, Twitter? Are you going to purchase MailChimp? Are you going to purchase Hootsuite so that you could send all your various different promotions at once? Are you going to use Facebook or LinkedIn? Where are you going to look for? Another aspect would be outreach, marketing, PR, and networking. You want to reach a lot of people. So you're going to try to get a diverse team from various different places. And then you're going to try to work with marketing to target those places. Your public relations is very important because you want to understand the community that you work in and you want to network with people. Another very important thing is you want to evaluate your events. So what went well, what didn't go well? So let's say we had a debate, okay? And let's say we had a few number of delegates. That's not exactly a bad thing. What that means is you got to focus with a smaller number of people and enlist confidence in them. You got to mentor them, maybe even had some fun with them. There's a lot of different ways to evaluate events. And most importantly, growth and expansion. Where do you see yourself in a year, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years? Well, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but where do you see yourself in a few years? And that's what you need to think about. Having said that, I'll now pass on the mic to Jaime to talk about MUN Impact Global and Online My United Nations.
And to add on to like growth and expansion, that also includes, as we mentioned before, learning and having people in your community learn something you should always be looking towards. You might get people hired on the spot and having a specific job. That's why people or having.
You're still breaking up.
Or having yourself to teach others is it's helpful and required, and you should expect that. You shouldn't really expect people to do or fit into job descriptions really quickly, despite of how much of a good job you've done at hiring them. So when you're looking towards growth and expansion, that also includes teaching others how to do things. And you really need to be specific with what you're going to do. If you're going to do this in a 5-year period, in a 1-year period, in a 2-month period, whatever time it is, it doesn't matter what it is. You need to know it very well so you know it's worth it, because it's a very long time investment and it takes a lot of time to get a reward out of it. So you have to really plan that, and that's why planning is key. Having said that, here's the next slide. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Right. Sorry for the connectivity issues. 1 second. Right. So, yeah, that leads into MUN Impact and Online Model United Nations. So OMAN and MUN Impact Global. What do we do? In MUN Impact Global, we work on fostering a community to expand MUN Impact itself in every corner of the world. That's why we literally have DSGs, which are Deputy Secretary Generals, for each region. So that'd be North America, Central America, South America, Europe, MENA, Africa, so on and so forth. We do this to get people involved in all the areas of the SDGs, both in the Ambient Impact community itself, be it debating, or real actions taken in the world, which don't necessarily have to be physical, especially with the coronavirus right now. But there are some things we'll be planning in the future which could lead to real life events that can perhaps be repeated on a yearly basis. So we have different positions in this. In this case, it would be Zoe and I working with our DSGs, which there's 2 for every single region, and then diplomats in each area, who are in charge of basically knowing what the community is like, what SDG they're more working towards, or what they should focus, what's more realistic, what's not, what's something for the future, what's something that we can do right now, and then what action can they take within their community to make it better. So it's like really taking action in order to make the world a better place, starting with yourself and your community, because that's really the most impactful thing you can do. And really, that's the essence of Ambient Impact Global. So, Marwan?
Marwan, are you there?
Just a second, please. Okay, sorry for that. So I'm going to talk to you a bit more about, Jaime, if you could please go back for a second. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a bit about Online My United Nations. So Online My United Nations is actually the world's first online My United Nations program that started 7 years ago, and until 4 months ago, we're the only online My United Nations organization. Now, what do we do as an organization? We facilitate debates to high school students. As I said before, we have 5 different debate teams: the General Assembly debate team, the Security Council debate team, the Human Rights Council debate team, the Education for Justice debate team, and the International Affairs Dialogues debate team. We're an organization that believes in youth advocacy. We try to make MUN accessible to people with an internet connection. So we do that by making sure that we provide MUN for free. We don't do MUN with a cost. We try to prepare quality guides and try to guide our delegates, because we believe that MUN is something that everyone should be able to do. And that is why, if you have an internet connection, we try to reach to you to allow you to join online debates. Having said that, I'd like to move on to the next slide to talk to you about more about how to start your own MUN club or society. So there are 4 things you want to focus on. First of all, the secretariat. So what type of team are you looking for? Again, as I mentioned before in the recruitment part, that's your team. That's the people you're going to be working with. Those are the people starting your MUN club. So obviously at school, some of you have MUN clubs, and that would be what I mean by secretariat. Another thing is conferences. A lot of you have a lot of annual conferences, be it physical or right now due to the pandemic, online. So what type of conferences are you looking to start? Another thing is moderating. Cannot emphasize that enough. You need to find a way to get experienced people to be chairs, to be your amendments moderators, your tally moderators, your chat moderators, be a co-chair, a deputy chair. You need people who are experienced and trained to lead your conferences, because essentially, yes, the delegates drive the debate, but at the same time, to control the debate, you need well-experienced moderators. Another thing would be considering traveling. Now, looking back at the past, obviously, traveling to MUN conferences was a possibility. Right now, present, that might not be a possibility. But as I said before, you have to have a future focus, and that's something that we focus on within our teams, having a future focus. We reflect on the past, we learn from our mistakes, we look at what we can do now, how we can achieve it as a team, and what our future focus is a year from now, 5 years from now, and 10 years from now. So if you're looking to launch an MUN club, start small, start online or start physical, and then move on to greater and bigger things, such as conferences and traveling around the world to build your MUN network. Having said that, I believe that's the end of our presentation, and I think we're about to open to questions and answers.
Thank you so much, Marwan and Jaime, for that wonderful presentation. I really definitely learned a lot about starting my own MUN conference or program, and I hope you all did as well. So I think a lot of you have questions. So now we're going to be entering the Q&A portion of the session. You can all feel free to turn your cameras on at this point, so we can just see everyone's face. And if you have a question, please either raise your hand or type in the chat. and I will call on you one by one to turn your mic on and then ask the presenters. So if you all would like to do that, turn your cameras on now and raise your hand or type in the chat if you have questions. That would be amazing. Thank you. Okay, so it looks like we have a question from Irene. Would you like to ask your question?
Yes. So how would you do conflict resolution or resolve tension between yourself and a superior in the context of Model UN, since face-to-face interaction is limited, especially if a subordinate thinks they're your superior?
I think I'll take that, and maybe Jaime could add on. So first of all, I believe that working with a lot of people, we have something in human resources called difficult people and how to deal with them. So you have to remember is a lot of people work differently. You have to respect the way that they work, but looking at the point of disagreements with your superiors, that's a completely normal thing in any organization. You're always going to have a disagreement with someone, right? And even if it's your superior, what's important to remember is that if they are your superior, you're probably going to have a close relationship with them. So just tell them, hey, look, I disagree with this. This is what I think. Could we come to a compromise? If a member of your team, as you said, thinks that they're superior to you, but you're calling them a subordinate, then I wouldn't refer to them as a subordinate. I'd refer to them as a teammate. Now, working in Online My United Nations, I believe in a leadership style where everyone works together to collaborate. So if I'm going to focus more on my experience in Oman, then we work together as a team. We vote on stuff. We come to stuff together. And going back in general, I just think that you need to understand people and try to deal with them in the most respectful manner, because especially if you're in an MUN club, you clearly do not want tensions that are going to last for a lifetime. Hope that answers your question. Jaime, would you like to add anything?
Right. And well, in every situation, you have two options. You can either change your environment or you can change yourself. And unfortunately, if there's no way of altering your environment by getting them to listen to what's happening, what you need to do and get done, the only thing you can do is really work around them. That's why you need to know them and know how they operate. So once you know them, how they act, work and think, you need to use your advantage to be able to get in touch with them and find a way to work with them, however hard it may be. At the end of the day, they're part of your team. There's nothing you can do about it, so you might as well make the best of it.
Thank you. So we're going to move on to the next question because we're running out of time. So Amaya, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, please. My question is that imagine a situation where if you're a leader, your teammates and you have two different opinions, and you're 100% sure that your one is the best and the successful one, but so do you suggest agreeing with the majority because they are just the majority, or going on with your one because that's the best one? And also I want to know that it was also asked by another one, that if a leader is too friendly, wouldn't it lead to a situation where the leader isn't respected? Because I have personally experienced, and that one also mentioned that she has also personally experienced that situation.
I'll take this one. So regarding the last part of your question, if you're being friendly in the correct manner, and if you're really a friend to your people, there's no way they're going to be disrespectful. If you mean that sometimes they'll go against you a bit, but that normally leads to playful teasing, which is a normal behavior. If we're talking about being disrespectful, then you're no longer friends. You can no longer consider a friendly relationship, and you should find a way to fix that. In regards to being sure that your opinion is 100%, 100% true, the only way you can know that is if you acted out your opinion in the real world with a decision. You really are not aware if you're 100% correct. That being said, you can just be upfront and honest with them. That's the only thing you know, why you know or think that the way you're gonna do a certain thing will work, and be upfront with them. Like, hey, I honestly think this. Look, this has worked in the past, or maybe it's a new thing. Like, hey, this can work like this because of whatever logic you found out that they haven't considered. So be upfront with them as much as possible.
Okay, so next we're going to move on to Anna's question.
Hi. What can I do if I want to create a moon club in my school, but the students doesn't have any experience doing I do this question because I don't know how to do it with the recruitment plan.
Okay, so let's look at MUN. So let's say you don't really have experience with MUN and you want to start a club, right? There's a lot of different ways you can go about that. You could go online and look at various resources and talk to various people, and they could guide you using their MUN experience. Another thing to consider is if you have a debating team in your school, try talking to them and see how they establish their debating team, and that might help you establish your own MUN team. And when it comes to recruitment, recruit people because they want to work with you, because they're hardworking, and that they're having a shared vision with you. Something that I've told people I've worked with before is that what's important to me isn't how good someone is in MUN, it's whether or not they're loyal to their cause. So whether or not they want to learn and advance, and whether or not they want to work hard. Because if someone's willing to work, then you can just teach them, and experience wouldn't be much of a big issue. Having said that, I'm going to answer some of the questions in the chat real quick. So one of the questions is, what qualifications do we need to become a leader? Okay, so generally speaking, anyone can be a leader if you have a vision and you followed certain leadership traits, such as being inspirational, having integrity, and believing in others. So to be a leader within an MUN organization, what you'd need is either, firstly, obviously MUN experience, or if you don't have MUN experience, you could work in other departments that don't necessarily relate to MUN oriented stuff, such as marketing, IT, and brand cooperation, communication, and public relations or outreach. You could also just train under the other various teams and become a leader. Another question has to do with emailing conferences and whether or not that's acceptable or ethical within your region. Now, obviously, approaching people is always fine. What you have to remember is don't always continue approaching people if they would not like to approach you. So try to find the right people for you, for your team within your region, and try emailing them, try reaching out to your friends, and maybe ask students to reach out to their MUN communities. Having said that, I think we have a few minutes left, so I'm going to pass it back to Zoe.
Are there any more questions? We have about 3 minutes, and I saw some hands were raised beforehand. Oh, Ananya.
Yeah, so thank you guys for your presentation. I really enjoyed it. And my question was, I was just curious to know what your vision was, because as you mentioned, you said to start the club with a vision in mind. So I was just curious to know what your vision was and how you've been able to implement it throughout your club.
Jaime, would you like to answer that?
I honestly didn't get to hear most of the questions, so I think it was relating to your leadership and stuff, so you can answer that.
I'm quickly going to talk about it since we have 2 minutes. So what is your vision? So let's see. If you're looking to start an MUN club, your vision might either be something to do with something that's personal to you. So let's say, for example, you might be quote unquote a shy student and you want to build up your confidence. So that's something that's very typical for a lot of MUNers, that we were nervous, we were shy at our first debates, and we want to build our confidence. So that's just a cliche thing to focus on. Just another thing would be how to create a vision. So something that you'd ask yourself is, what exactly do I want to achieve? What is my goal, and why am I doing this? As in, what is your motivation for doing this? That will help you answer what your vision is. Having said that, I think that will be the rest of the questions as we're running out of time. But before I pass on the mic to Zoe, I am going to send something in the chat. It is something that if you've seen some people here in the meeting having the word help desk on their screen, it is basically our 24/7 help desk for at the summit. So please join us if you have any more questions. I'll be there myself. So if you have any further questions to do this workshop or general, I'll be able to answer it for you. I'm also going to drop my email if you feel the need to contact me anytime in the future. Having said that, thank you for attending our workshop, and I'll pass it to Jaime.
Marwan, please drop that as well. And just, we have a couple seconds. How could I best identify the best theme? How could I identify the best themes to discuss? Honestly, do what you think is interesting. And if that's not, that isn't a very popular opinion, get people's ideas on, like ask people in general, however you can, you know, with your social media, your circle of friends, your far reaching circle of friends, or just people that you can actually talk to. Ask them what would be interesting issues to discuss. That's the only way you can know, is asking people.
Okay, thank you so much, Jaime and Marwan. I'm so sorry that we have to cut this short because I know you guys have so many questions for our presenters, but they dropped their contact info in the chat and you can definitely reach out. You can also go to the help desk. I know Marwan and Jaime, live on that help desk, so they'll be there to answer any questions you have. My last announcement is that because the summit is coming to a close, I just wanted to thank you all for attending, but I also wanted to share our feedback form with you guys. So I just put the link in the chat. Please fill it out. As you all heard at the opening ceremonies, we're planning another summit for the fall, and we would really love to know how we can improve and what we did well. So please do fill that out if you have not done so already. And once again, I want to thank you all for attending the Global Summit and for attending this workshop. And I want to thank our presenters for the hard work they put into this presentation. Thank you, guys.